This week we're in beautiful Qualicum, Parksville. Not only is it a wonderful place for a family holiday, but there's some fabulous food stuff going on around here as well. Let's go and have a look. Parksville Qualicum has been a family favorite vacation destination for years, and the area has a lot to offer its many visitors. There are warm, shallow waters to play in, some beautiful resorts and hotels to stay in, and a chance to enjoy some amazing scenery and natural beauty in the great outdoors, including the Little Qualicum Falls. The area has also been voted one of the best family beach destinations in Canada, and it has a lot of fun activities for the kids. Well, kids and me, of course. Well, that was a lot of fun, but now that I'm absolutely saturated, I think we should go and find something a little bit drier to do. Come on. While Qualicum Parksville is known for being family friendly, I'm out to see if it's chef friendly too. And since the area is known for its amazing shellfish, I decided the best place to start was on the water. Good morning.
Good morning.
You must be Kyle.
Yeah.
I'm meeting up with Captain Kyle Kulbacki from Island Scallops to go scallop fishing. While Kyle jets us out to the scallop beds, Taylor quickly shows me the ropes. I didn't think that scallops moved around much, but these guys are sure in a hurry to go and get them. I'd better get dressed quick. I'm beginning to wonder what I've got myself into. First, we pull up the floats and line, then the baskets, under the ropes,
1, 2, 3.
then shake, hard, very hard, over and over again. Then the scallops get washed and packed in ice. I've always liked scallops, but I definitely didn't realize how much work goes into getting them. Kyle, this is like really hard work. Day like today, really nice, but I imagine it's not always like this.
You get wind, you get snow, and you work every day.
And are you all year round harvesting?
Yeah.
And how long does it take for these guys to mature? How long?
These are 2010 fall sort,
Okay.
so 2.5 years, 3 years until they're harvestable. Yeah, and these I think are the biggest scallops that you can get in Canada for sure.
Right. I mean, they're gorgeous. Look at this.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this guy. He's still. There we go. Oh.
They're almost double the size of like the East Coast scallop.
Yeah. Oh, I almost. This guy is still alive and kicking, but I'm sorry, buddy. You will not die in vain. You will be delicious. Oh, that is just so sweet and tender and delicious. After a very hard morning's work on the scallop boat, I followed the scallops to Island Scallops processing plant in Qualicum Bay. Showing me around is marketing director Brian Yip. So, Brian, just over an hour ago, I personally physically pulled these out of the water.
Correct.
And these are now in your processing facility here at Island Scallops. So what happens to them now?
So they got unloaded at Fanny Bay Dock, which is about 15 minutes from here. They come in insulated tote. There's ice inside to keep the scallop cold.
Yeah.
Once they get into the plant, they actually will go into racks like those ones.
Okay.
And from there, it will transfer into the live tank.
Right, so this is salt water.
In the salt water, there's a micro bubbler in there. They keep the water clean. They bring in new water. So we keep them in the tank for at least half a day to chill them down. And from there, we will bring it out onto a grading table where we will clean it and then grade out different size before we pack them.
Now, you operate under the OceanWise format. Can you just explain a little bit more about OceanWise? What does OceanWise stand for? What does it mean to the consumer?
It means for the consumer is that the way we farm our product, not just being sustainable, we're also socially responsible too.
Right.
So we do have the social licensing that people are looking for in the standard.
Yeah.
At the same time, when we supply the product to the restaurants or retailers, we inform them, and they then have the logo to go onto the menu.
Yep.
And you actually see retail store now also have Oceanwise logo
Right.
on the display, so people can recognize it just looking at it.
Right. Excellent.
We spawn our own scallops in our own hatchery. From there, it goes into our nursery,
Right.
and then we produce a seed.
Okay.
It goes into the pearl nets, and then it goes into the nets.
And how long does that whole process take?
The whole process takes about 18 months.
Okay.
And the reason why we're sustainable, like I said, is because we actually put more in the water than we take out. And also we're what we call off-bottom culture.
Right.
Our scallop don't touch the ocean floor. Okay. So when we farm the scallops or when we harvest the scallop, we actually don't disturb the ocean floor at all. And the advantage of doing that too is that our scallop are basically sand-free because it doesn't touch the sand on the bottom of the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What kind of volume do you go through here?
I think last year we did just under 4 million scallops.
4 million scallops.
Yes.
That's a lot of scallops.
It is a lot of scallop. So we actually haven't gone too much into Asia and the US. We have been basically supplying to Vancouver and make sure Vancouver has all the scallop they need. And then we then look at exporting some.
Right. And they're such a fabulous product. We don't want to give them to anybody else. We want to keep them all here for
Well,
ourselves.
we started here, so we want to make sure when you go to a restaurant, when you go to a retail store, they will have our product on the menu.
The excellent Oceanwise Seafood Conservation Program is run by the Vancouver Aquarium. But there are other local organizations working to protect our seafood. One of them is based here in this spectacular new building overlooking Baines Sound. This is the Deep Bay Marine Field Station, run by Vancouver Island University's Centre for Shellfish Research. Manager Brian Kingsit is kindly showing me around.
Wow. Yeah, so the idea of this beautiful foyer, which would be a marine science center, is that we have this shape that's that of a clamshell, and the idea is that we're trying to project all our visitors' information out at beautiful Baines Sound. We're starting to work on these guys as actually a culinary animal.
These are sea cucumbers?
As sea cucumbers.
Yep.
For Chinese are very interested in those. We have some of our native rock scallops, which are not commercial, and then we have some of our local scallops in here as well.
That's what we saw earlier on.
Yeah, is that guy.
Yeah.
And of course, we also have some sea urchins, our green urchin and our red urchin. So both of these are what you would get. The gonads from these, so if you broke them open and scooped up, would be what you get as uni, as is in a sushi restaurant.
Yeah.
And so we're also doing some work with some species a lot of people don't know about, like these guys, which are the native oyster. So it turns out that the oyster that we all sort of know, love, and grow here in BC was actually imported after over-harvesting and water pollution basically rendered this species of oyster extinct. This is called the Olympia oyster, which you may have heard. We're actually farming this species now with the idea of helping restore it. Right. So we've got actually about 10 million of their larvae here in the building right now.
I can see a few of those 10 million native oyster larvae under the microscope. Next door, their food is being grown. Inside these weird glowing cylinders are different species of phytoplankton. This is the buffet for the millions of microscopic larvae growing in these tanks. The center is also studying other local species, like these tiny clams, which will eventually grow to this, the amazing gooey duck clam.
These are the world's largest burrowing clam. Can live up to 140 years old. This one's probably over 20 years old.
And they actually submerge themselves, don't they?
They submerge themselves like this. So the shell will actually be maybe 3 feet or a meter below the surface of the mud, and this neck can extend all the way up to here. And so when a predator, like one of the sea stars over in here, tries to eat them, they'll just pull their neck all the way back down. Next to the tropical giant clam, this is probably the most expensive clam in the world, and they're only found from California to Alaska.
In the center's kitchen, chef instructor Debbie Shore of the Culinary Institute of Vancouver Island, with a little help from students Amber and Jack, has offered to prepare gooey duck for me to try.
We're going to blanch it quickly.
Okay.
We're going to cool it really fast.
Right.
And then we're going to take a knife and go around and open it up. Then we're going to play with it. So there you go. Okay, so this goes into the boiling water. Oops.
Oh. They're lively. They're lively.
You naughty boy. All right,
No.
6 seconds. Do. Get in there. And they're alive, so don't feel guilty. Just 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, and I've even seen people do it for 15, 20 seconds, but not for long, okay?
But
he is
again,
not happy.
You don't want to overcook these, do you? Because
You
this is
don't
one of
wanna
those
cook
things you either don't cook it or you got to braise it for a long period of time.
That's it. Now, if you take that skin, feel how it's really on there pretty tight.
Yeah.
And he's peeing all over there. Woo-hoo, he isn't really peeing, it's just, it's a siphon, right? Well, look at this.
see.
Now it's, oops, haha, just about got the camera. Now it's all totally
look at
loose.
that.
So that was so fast, right? So then now what we do is we just take the knife and we run it inside the shell. We just get in and just sort of loosen that off. That's where the adductor muscle is. Like on a scallop, it's that great big muscle, but
Yep.
the adductor is right around there.
So again, most shellfish, they kind of work the same way, irrespective of their shape and their size. They all have the same sort of...
There we go. And then we just take that membrane and pull it off. And I wrote down that you pull it off like a sock, but other people think of other things a little...
Flavors and shapes,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's so many places
so,
we
yeah,
can go with
and
that.
you know what? You see how long that is? So that's how long that neck would be under the sand.
Which is that protective
Right.
mechanics for it. It would
Yeah.
just shrink back down when
Yeah.
predators were around.
So then we're just going to get in here and we're going to take that little bit of the stomach and everything out.
Okay, now can you do anything with this?
No, it doesn't taste good. I'm just going to cut, this part here is very tender.
Okay.
I'm just going to cut it into smaller pieces. And then I'm going to give this to Jack and Amber, and they're going to just bread it, and then we can fry it up.
Oh.
Okay, so with this, what we can do is just shave it really, really thin.
Sashimi style?
Yeah. And it's kind of a weird texture. It is very chewy, and it's almost crunchy,
Okay.
but
I have to
just
confess,
drizzle-
I've never had it. And
Yeah.
I've heard so much about it. This is going to be the first time I've...
And then we'll just drizzle a little bit of olive oil over it. And then there's a little bit of fleur de sel. Not much. And then just little chives maybe, eh? Have a little taste. It's just so fresh.
You know what?
It's amazing.
I don't quite know how to describe that because it's not what you would imagine shellfish. Shellfish is soft and
Yeah.
muscly.
No.
It's, like you say, it's got a crunch to it.
Yeah.
It's almost like a vegetable. It's
Yeah.
almost it's
Yeah,
almost
you're
along
right.
the lines of radish or daikon.
Yeah.
That's raw gooey duck, sashimi style. How about deep fried? See the beautiful opaqueness of the heat just going through it. Beautiful.
Tender.
Delicious, tender,
Yeah.
delicate.
Yeah.
Well, this week we're absolutely delighted to be in the Sunrise Ridge Resort here in Parksville, and I get the week off. And I've got my colleague Eric Akey's in, TC food writer and chef, who's going to show us a couple of dishes with some local island scallops. Eric, thank you so much for coming in.
It's great to be here.
Eric is well known as the food writer for the Victoria Times Colonist and the author of the Everyone Can Cook series of cookbooks. So I'm really looking forward to this. So what's first?
What's first? Well, back in the day when I worked in Toronto in the yuppie 80s,
Right.
used to frequent a seafood restaurant, and they got in the very freshest seafood. And they just kept the preparation simple.
Right.
So one dish that they used to do that I borrowed had butter, sparkling wine, garlic, shallots, and a bit of spice, and that was it. So we have those wonderful scallops that you got.
Okay.
And one thing people forget to do with scallops
Yeah.
is take off that little foot.
Yep.
I always take that off.
Yeah.
So we're going to take that off, and we're going to put these in little baking dishes. You could put it in a scallop dish like this,
Okay.
nice presentation, or you could just put it in a little cast iron
Oh, you're
pan.
actually cooking it in these, aren't
Oh,
you?
yeah, yeah. These are
wonderful. So these are one dish meals.
exactly. So that's where we start. Now we're going to move over to the stove and make a butter topping for it.
Okay.
So we're just going to start with some old-fashioned butter. This is about 2 tablespoons, give or take a few. That's a bit hot, so we're just going to move it to the side while we chop some shallots and garlic. I just got a new gas stove at home, but for years I worked with electric. I test all the recipes at home, so it's kind of a home situation.
Right.
But I noticed when I switched to gas how much quicker on-off was.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's quite hot. Let
That's
it on there
right.
for a while.
And of course, that's the beauty of gas, isn't it? Is that when it's on, it's on. And when it's off, it's off. You know, with electric,
Yeah.
you're waiting to come up and come down.
Exactly. Sometimes people smash the garlic to chop it.
I'm a smasher.
I-
I like
yeah.
smashing. It just gets rid of pent-up aggressions and frustrations.
And I just like to show off that I did actually go to chef school way back when.
So where were you cooking before you became a food writer? So you mentioned Toronto earlier.
Yeah, I kind of started out in the middle of nowhere in a small town called Qualicum in northwestern Ontario. Okay. My dad was in the military, and when I was a teenager getting into trouble, he got me a job on the base as a dishwasher. Okay. And when I was there, I met this chef who worked there. His name was Sandy Wong. He's still one of the best chefs I've ever met. Right. So on Friday nights, when my other friends would go out and get into trouble, he'd invite me to his place and do these 7-course Chinese dinners. Oh, wonderful. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. So my friends would stop by and say, why aren't you coming out? I've got a couple more courses to go. I'll see you about midnight. Yeah, so he really encouraged me. So I went through the apprenticeship program in Ontario, and ended up in Toronto working at the Four Seasons Hotel there. And I also did my pastry chef training while I was in Toronto.
Oh, fabulous. So you're a qualified pastry chef as well?
Yeah.
A bit of everything.
You got to keep learning this business, I think, just to kind of keep above the curve. So that's our shallots and garlic going into the butter. We're just kind of softening them up here because they're going to cook with the scallops in the oven. So we're going to put some of the sparkling wine in here, about a 1/4 cup, a little cayenne pepper for some heat.
So just a little blast of spice.
And just a bit of paprika for color. And that's about it. And all we do is...
This really is a very, very simple dish, isn't it? We're just
ladle some of that over top. So this is only going to take about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so these are in at 450 degrees.
Okay.
For about 10 minutes.
Okay, so just really quick, really hot, really fast.
Yeah, so just until the scallops are sort of firm tender, but not like rubber, then they're overcooked.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the last thing you want to do with scallops is overcook them.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is mild curry paste. Okay. If you like things spicy, you could use medium or hot. Yeah. And I always have a jar of this in my fridge. So we're just going to take about 2 teaspoons of that, and we're going to put in about a tablespoon of lime juice. Okay. And just mix that up.
Just to sort of basically thin it down and make it a little more fluid and
bring
that acidity in.
So it'll coat the scallops. So we're going to add about 8 scallops.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Again, these are nice fat scallops, so a couple of portions. Okay.
Yeah, and today we're going to serve this as an appetizer when we're all done.
And these are actually sort of marinating quite, because of course the acid in the lime juice is starting, that's almost a ceviche kind of process here, isn't it?
Exactly, and we're just going to go about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Because with seafood it doesn't take a lot to give them a lot of flavor. So to make the riata, we got some thick yogurt. And actually you can get thick yogurt and 0 fat, if fat's a concern these days. Yeah. Yeah. And now we're going to get a cucumber. And we're just going to grate about 1/4 cup. And I like to squeeze a bit of the moisture out of it. Right. Yeah. So you can see how much liquid came out of that. Yeah. Quite a bit.
So we've got yogurt, we've got a little bit of cucumber, we're going to put a little garlic in there.
Do a little garlic. I've just added a tiny bit of cumin.
Okay.
And now we're going to add a little bit of lime juice.
Okay. So again, and the cumin is one of those spices, it's that nice warm North African spice, and it really is a sort of a well-rounded warming spice, isn't it? Without having any sort of heat.
Yeah, I think it's the spice I use most often. It's one of my favorites. Yeah. And we're going to add a bit of mint or cilantro or basil, whatever you had. Okay. We've got cilantro. So we're just going to mix that up. And it's going to be a lovely complement to the scallops after. Yeah. Okay, so we made the raita. Yep. And now we're going to saute the scallops. Okay. So our pan's smoking hot. That was some vegetable oil. Just going to use my fingers. Set them right in there.
And that's what we want to hear. We want to hear that sizzle, don't we?
Exactly.
That's the perfect sizzle, isn't it? You really want to hear that good. You want to hear them sing.
And it's just going to be about 1 to 2 minutes per side. Okay. Okay. So we're going to flip these over.
It's that nice little sear on. Oh, look at that.
It's been about 1.5 minutes probably. And just turn them over.
And that little bit of caramelization, it just gives you that sort of a little crust and a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of bitterness at the same time, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a perfect description.
Yeah.
So, Steve, the doneness test for me for a scallop is there should be a little bit of a spring right in the middle. Right. If it's very firm, it's overcooked. Right. If it's too soft, then it's not cooked through. Right. Now, some people don't mind the scallop is fresh to be a little bit undercooked in the middle because it'll continue to cook once you take it off.
That's right. You get that carryover cooking, don't you, a little bit?
But to me, that's done perfectly. So let's move it over here and plate it. Wow. And there you go. Some Indian spice scallops with the raita.
That looks absolutely wonderful. So these guys have had that nice sort of high heat, just 10 minutes, just, look at those. And you can just tell they're still sort of moist and succulent. Just a little bit of firm, a little tender in the middle. What I didn't mention was I did a little bit of vegetables.
You could serve this with saffron rice, regular rice. Right. You could serve it with a salad. Again, I like to do a nice presentation on a board like this. Yeah, yeah. But I just sautéed some zucchini and some cherry tomatoes together. Yeah. I boiled some local nugget potatoes. You can make them ahead, pop them in the oven with the scallops at the same time they go in, they'll be ready. And then a little bit of parsley, just to show you my knife skills again. And that's our baked scallops, the sparkling wine and butter.
It smells fat between the. I don't know which smells better, this one, the Indian scallops, or that one, because I can just smell the butter in the sparkling wine.
And definitely recipes that everyone can cook.
So from the waters of Bain Sound, harvesting fresh scallops, beautiful dishes prepared by our local Eric Eckes. Thank you very much, and these are just a few of the flavors of the Qualicum Parksville area.
So here at the Penny Farthing Pub, we've chosen to pair the scallop dish with our Robert Service stone-fired Scottish ale. It's a great pairing because of the stones that are actually thrown into the brewing process. It caramelizes the sugar, which gives it a great honey undertone. It also works very well with both sauces as it balances out nicely with the garlic as well as the curry. The Robert Service is from Phillips Brewery, which is part of our 5-mile beer diet.
Well, Rod, Eric Eckes did these wonderful scallop dishes for us. Now, I am terribly sorry that we didn't bring any back for you.
I think what you're really saying is you ate them all.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
busted.
okay.
I'm sorry.
I don't blame
So
you.
we had one very classic garlic, butter, scallops. Again, nice, clean, classic flavors. And then we had a curry one. What can you do for us?
Scallops have, as you know, a really delicate flavor to them.
Absolutely.
But when you put them with butter and you put them with garlic and in a classic style, to me, that says you need a Chardonnay that's seen a little bit of oak. And in this case, with the scallops, I chose this particular wine out of California. This is the Cameron Hughes Lot 232 from Carneros.
Right.
Carneros generally has a real freshness to it, a little lemon, lime, citrus. But this I bought at a little older vintage.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, it required a little bit of time for all the flavors to marry. And I think right now it's tasting beautifully. So I'll give you a little taste of that.
And it's a lovely color, isn't it? You mentioned lemon, and it really does. It kind of has that lemony hue to it.
Precisely, precisely. And when you put your nose in there, you know, creme brulee, you get a little bit of vanilla, you get apple, you get a little cinnamon.
Let's taste it. Let's taste it. Citrus, it really does. It's forward with that citrus in it. Again, going to pair beautifully with the butter and the garlic and the scallops.
Absolutely. And it just works so well together.
What a beautiful wine.
Yeah,
lovely.
stunning.
Very nice. Mild Indian curry.
Yes.
So this was a nice, gentle, mellow, and it didn't overwhelm the scallops.
What I chose was actually a Vancouver Island wine, Damasco, made by Zanata. And this actually has a little bit of frizzante. That's the Italian word for a delicate little bubble to it. So that'll allow the nuances of the mild curry to bounce on your palate.
And again, lots and lots of citrus.
In fact, this is our #1 selling BC wine, period.
Seriously.
It is a phenomenal.
And there's a very
wine.
good reason for that. Because you know what it tastes like to me? It tastes like another.
Well done, well done.
Rod, I think in his absence, Eric deserves a little cheers.
Absolutely.
On his behalf.
Cheers.
Thank you very
Eric.
much. Cheers, Eric. Flavours of the West Coast is made possible by the generous contributions of the Victoria Pub Company, Country Grocer, and Fortis BC.